Weakness doesn't disappear when you start winning. It evolves with you. It hides behind success, waiting for the moment you relax. That's why you can't stop sharpening the weapon. The moment you think you've made it, the mind starts to soften. Comfort starts whispering again. That's when weakness sees its chance to creep back in. It's always waiting, always ready to reclaim its ground. The only way to keep it away is to stay disciplined, to keep pushing when everyone else is resting, to remind yourself that strength is a choice you make every day. Every single morning when you wake up, you have a decision to make, to serve your weakness or to serve your growth. One leads to comfort, the other leads to greatness. And that decision doesn't get easier, it gets harder. The more you grow, the more your weakness tries to evolve with you. It disguises itself as pride, as comfort, as satisfaction. You've got to recognize it. You've got to call it out because the fight never ends. It just changes shape. People think once you get strong, life gets easier. It doesn't. You just get better at handling hard things. You become immune to the excuses that destroy most people. That's the reward of turning weakness into strength. Not an easy life, but a powerful one. You learn to stay calm in chaos. You learn to move forward even when fear screams in your ear. You learn that failure isn't fatal, it's feedback. That's a mindset no one can teach you. You've got to build it yourself. Turning your weakness into your weapon isn't about pretending to be invincible. It's about being honest enough to say, I'm still learning, but I'm not quitting. It's about walking into the storm knowing it's going to hurt but going anyway. It's about realizing that life doesn't reward the most talented or the most gifted. It rewards the most relentless, the ones who take what they lack and turn it into the fire that fuels them. You don't need to be special. You need to be consistent. You need to show up every single day with no guarantee of success and no promise of reward. That's how warriors are born. There's something powerful that happens when you stop seeing weakness as shame and start seeing it as potential. Suddenly, every failure becomes a project. Every fear becomes a challenge. Every flaw becomes a target for improvement. You stop living like a victim and start training like a soldier. That's when life shifts. That's when you start to understand that the mind can adapt to anything. The same way steel gets stronger in fire, the human spirit gets stronger in struggle. The pain you're running from today will become the power you rely on tomorrow. That heartbreak, that loss, that betrayal, that's the fuel. Every person who doubted you, every time you were overlooked, every time you were laughed at, that's your arsenal. You don't forget it, you use it. You store it deep inside and turn it into energy. You stop letting it haunt you and start letting it drive you. That's how you reclaim your power. You turn the things that once crushed you into the very things that keep you alive. Weakness is not a curse, it's an invitation. It's life saying, here's where you need to grow. Every challenge you face is showing you where the next version of yourself lives. That's why you can't avoid the hard stuff. That's why the most painful seasons of your life are often the most transformative. You grow in the dirt, not in the light. The roots of strength dig deep in the dark before they ever reach the surface. Every weakness you face today is preparing you for something bigger tomorrow. But only if you stop complaining about it and start working through it. Stop wishing for things to get easier. Start wishing to get tougher. Because life doesn't get easier, you do. Every rep, every struggle, every test is shaping you into someone who can handle more. That's the game. That's the process. You have to learn to love the grind. You have to find pride in the process of getting better. Because once you do, there's nothing left to fear. You realize that every weakness is temporary if you work on it long enough. You realize that pain fades, but discipline doesn't. You realize that struggle builds something success never can. Character. That's what separates the strong from the weak. Not the absence of weakness, but the ability to face it every day and keep fighting. You're not defined by your weakness. You're defined by your response to it. Everyone falls. Everyone fails. Everyone doubts themselves. But not everyone gets back up. That's the line that separates mediocrity from greatness. Weakness tries to convince you that you can't, that you're not ready, that you're not enough. But the moment you act anyway, the moment you move forward despite fear, that's when the weapon forms. Every strike of resistance sharpens you. Every obstacle is another chance to test your blade. Every failure adds another layer of resilience. You're not fragile, you're forged. And the longer you stay in the fire, the sharper you become. Weakness doesn't disappear, but it learns to respect you. It stops controlling you because it knows you'll keep coming back stronger every single time. That's how you turn your weakness into your weapon. Not by waiting for courage, but by acting through fear. Not by avoiding pain, but by hoping for strength, but by building it one painful step at a time. ChatGPT said you don't become unbreakable by avoiding the storm. You become unbreakable by standing in it until it bows to you. Weakness wants you to run. It wants you to hide behind excuses, behind comfort, behind the easy way out. But if you stay, if you endure, if you refuse to give in, something changes. The same weakness that once controlled you becomes the very thing that shapes you. That's the paradox of growth. The pain that once broke you becomes the pressure that molds you. Every scar on your body, every failure you've survived, every setback you've faced, those aren't signs of weakness. They're proof that you kept showing up when most people quit. That's your story. That's your power. You've got to stop hating your past and start learning from it. Because your past isn't your prison. It's your classroom. The lessons you learn in darkness are the ones that prepare you for the light. You can't develop strength without resistance, and you can't build resilience without pain. When you start to see weakness as your training partner instead of your enemy, your whole mindset shifts. You stop running from struggle and start chasing it, because you understand that every time you face something hard, you're being upgraded. The pain is refining you, the exhaustion is sculpting you, and the frustration is teaching you patience. You start realizing that growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in chaos. That's why so many people stay average. They spend their lives avoiding the very thing that would make them great. Weakness has one goal: to keep you small. It whispers that you're not ready, not strong enough, not talented enough. And most people listen. They believe the lie. But if you can drown out that voice and keep moving forward, you'll start to see the truth. Weakness only has power when you give it attention. The moment you stop believing in it, it starts to lose its grip. You start to see it for what it really is: an illusion built on fear. You've got to understand that transformation is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong pursuit. You can't train for a few weeks and expect to be strong forever. You've got to keep sharpening the blade. You've got to keep testing your limits. The mind and body are like steel. They rust when left unused. Every day you don't challenge yourself, you're getting weaker. Every time you skip the hard work, you're dulling your edge. That's why Goggins always says, you've got to callous the mind, because life will test you when you least expect it, and if you're not ready, you'll break. There are no shortcuts to mastery. You can't fake discipline. You can't buy mental toughness. You have to earn it day after day, moment after moment, when no one is watching. You earn it in silence, in the grind, in the dark, where no one is cheering for you. That's where your real weapon is built. Not in the spotlight, not in success, but in the quiet moments when you want to quit and choose not to. That's what defines a warrior. That's what separates the strong from the weak. Every day, you're either building your weapon or letting it rust. There is no in between. When you wake up tired, when you don't want to move, when your body says stop, that's your test, that's your moment. Weakness wants you to stay in bed. The warrior gets up. Weakness wants you to doubt yourself. The warrior acts anyway. Weakness wants comfort. The warrior seeks growth. You've got to decide who you are, because every small choice is shaping the kind of person you're becoming. And here's the truth: the battle never ends. There's no finish line. You don't reach a point where you're suddenly done. Life keeps throwing punches. The mind keeps finding new limits. The question is, are you willing to keep fighting? Are you willing to keep evolving? Because if you are, there's nothing that can stop you. You become unstoppable not because you're perfect, but because you refuse to stay broken. You've got to look in the mirror and stop seeing weakness as shame. You've got to see it as your starting point. The version of you that's tired, broken, doubting, that's the raw material of greatness. That's where it begins. Every hero, every champion, every warrior started there. The difference is they didn't stay there. They took their pain and they went to work. They forged their weapon through years of struggle, through rejection, through fear. Your weakness is not your end. It's your invitation. It's your call to rise. You've been given everything you need: breath in your lungs, will in your heart, and a choice in your hands. You can let weakness define you, or you can turn it into power. You can let it break you, or you can use it to build yourself into something the world can't shake. So don't waste your suffering. Don't run from it. Use it. Let it refine you, shape you, transform you. Let every failure fuel your focus. Let every loss teach you discipline. Let every pain sharpen your blade. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that every scar, every tear, every moment you thought you couldn't go on, that was the training ground for your greatness. And when that day comes, when you stand strong in the face of what used to destroy you, you'll understand what this was all about. Pain was never your enemy. Weakness was never your curse. They were your teachers. They were your weapon makers. They were the forge that turned your flesh into steel and your fear into fire. You don't escape weakness. You transcend it. You don't fight pain. You learn from it. You become unstoppable when you realize that every part of you, the strong, the broken, the afraid, is working together to build the warrior you were meant to become. So keep fighting. Keep sharpening, keep rising, because your greatest weapon was never your strength. It was your willingness to face your weakness and keep going anyway. That's how you turn weakness into your weapon. That's how you become unbreakable. you have is a weapon waiting to be forged. Most people spend their entire lives running from what makes them uncomfortable, their fears, insecurities, failures, the parts of themselves they don't want to face. They hide behind excuses, behind comfort, behind the illusion that strength comes from perfection. But that's the biggest lie there is. True power doesn't come from what you're good at. It comes from what broke you. It's the pain, the struggle, the humiliation, the self-doubt. Those are the raw materials that, if you're willing to face them, can become the sharpest blades you'll ever hold. The problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that weakness is something to be ashamed of. Society tells you to look strong, act confident, pretend you have it all together. But pretending doesn't build power, facing does. When you finally stop running from the parts of yourself that scare you, that's when you start becoming dangerous. Weakness is not your enemy, denial is. The moment you accept your flaws, your fears, your failures, you take their power away, you strip them of control. Because weakness only has control over you when you refuse to confront it. Every scar, every mistake, every time you fell short, that's data. That's feedback from life. But most people ignore it because it hurts. They can't handle the mirror that shows them what they really are. They want to believe they're strong without ever having to struggle. But strength doesn't come from success, it's born in failure. The greatest minds, the toughest warriors, the strongest souls, all of them were built in the fire of their own weakness. They didn't start strong, they became strong because they had no choice. When life humbles you, when it breaks you, when it pushes you to your knees, that's your forge. That's where your transformation begins. Every time you get knocked down, you have two choices: stay broken or rebuild stronger. Most people stay down, they point fingers, they complain, they say, why me? But warriors don't do that. Warriors look at their pain and say, all right, let's use this. They take the same thing that was meant to destroy them and turn it into the very thing that makes them unstoppable. That's what turning weakness into a weapon looks like. The truth is, weakness isn't something you get rid of. It's something you learn to work with. It's part of you. You can't erase it, but you can reshape it. You can take your insecurity and turn it into humility. You can take your fear and turn it into awareness. You can take your anger and turn it into energy. You can take your pain and turn it into purpose. But it doesn't happen by talking about it. It happens through discipline, repetition, and self-confrontation. Every single day, you've got to look at your weaknesses and say, I see you, but you don't own me anymore. The mind wants comfort. It wants to protect you from discomfort, embarrassment, failure. But that protection is a prison. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're reinforcing your weakness. You're letting it grow stronger while your discipline gets weaker. But when you choose the opposite, when you step into discomfort on purpose, you start flipping the script. You start retraining your brain to see challenge as opportunity. That's how you build mental armor. That's how you sharpen your edge. Every weakness you've got is a teacher in disguise. Fear teaches courage. Failure teaches resilience. Doubt teaches faith. Pain teaches patience. But you've got to show up to class. You've got to let the lessons hurt. There's no shortcut to transformation. You've got to go through it. And once you do, you start to realize that the things that used to break you are now the things that make you strong. The same voice that used to tell you to quit becomes fuel. The same fear that froze you becomes fire. That's the process. That's how weakness becomes your weapon. You see, most people want power, but they don't want to pay for it. They want confidence, but they don't want to earn it. They want to look strong, but they don't want to go through what makes you strong. You can't fake this. You can't buy it. You've got to suffer for it. You've got to bleed for it. You've got to walk through hell and keep moving. That's how you find out who you really are. Weakness isn't your curse. It's your calling. It's the thing that forces you to evolve. Every single one of us has weaknesses. I don't care who you are, how tough you think you've become. There's always something inside you that still needs work. And that's a good thing, because it means you've still got room to grow. The danger isn't in being weak. It's in pretending you're not. When you hide your weakness, it grows in the dark. When you face it, you bring it into the light. And in the light, it starts to lose its power. So stop running. Stop hiding behind the mask of perfection. Stop pretending you've got it all figured out. Admit your flaws. Acknowledge your fears. And then get to work. Use them. Train them. Mold them. Because once you do, that same weakness that once held you back will become the reason you never quit again. ChatGPT said weakness is the most honest mirror you'll ever face. It doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't care about your excuses or your potential. It exposes you. That's why most people run from it. They'd rather live in denial than face the truth. But you can't grow in denial. You can't build power pretending to be strong. You only evolve when you face reality head on. Every weakness that you're hiding from is holding you back. The day you stop lying to yourself is the day your transformation begins. You've got to be brutally honest about who you are. What are you afraid of? What are you avoiding? What makes you insecure? Write it down. Face it. Confront it. That's how warriors are made, not through comfort or praise, but through confrontation with their own limitations. You can't fix what you refuse to face. Every time you admit your weakness, you take one step closer to strength, because awareness is the first step to power. People ask, how do I become mentally tough? You don't wake up one day with toughness. You earn it by suffering through your weaknesses, by choosing to stay in the fire when everyone else runs. Mental toughness isn't built in the gym. It's built in the dark moments when no one's watching, when your body's tired and your mind's screaming for relief. That's when your weakness starts to melt away. That's when you discover what you're really made of. You want to turn your weakness into a weapon. Then stop trying to hide from pain. Pain is the training ground. Every time you face discomfort, you're sharpening your edge. Every setback, every failure, every embarrassing moment, that's your forge. That's where the weapon gets built. You can't get strong by avoiding resistance. You've got to use it. The world will throw pressure at you whether you like it or not. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you crumble under it or use it to become harder? You see, the mind has two voices, one that wants comfort and one that demands growth. The weak voice says, you're tired, you've done enough, take it easy. The strong voice says, you're not done, get up, you've got more in you. The battle is between those two voices every single day. Weakness wins when you listen to the first one. Strength wins when you choose the second. It's that simple. But it's not easy. You've got to train your mind to ignore the noise of weakness. The mind learns through repetition. The more you face what scares you, the less control it has. The more you push past the limit, the more the limit moves. The more you fail, the more familiar failure becomes, and the less power it holds. Every time you do something that makes you uncomfortable, you're teaching your brain a new story that you're capable, that you're adaptable, that you're in control. That's how you rewire yourself from victim to warrior. Weakness will always be there. You can't eliminate it, but you can outwork it. You can make sure it never catches up to you. You do that by showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. That's when your mind gets stronger. That's when the weapon gets sharper. You don't sharpen a blade by keeping it in a safe place. You sharpen it by putting it against stone. That friction, that pressure, that's where strength is born. Most people never become who they could be because they quit at the first sign of friction. They feel the burn, and they think it's a sign to stop. But pain isn't a sign of weakness. It's proof that you're changing. Growth hurts. Adaptation hurts. Progress hurts. Every new level of strength demands a new level of suffering. That's the tax you pay for greatness. You don't escape it. You embrace it, because pain is how you extract power from weakness. The most dangerous person is not the one who's never failed. It's the one who's failed 1,000 times and refuses to quit. That's someone who's turned their weakness into fuel. Every rejection, every loss, every mistake becomes ammunition. That's what makes them unstoppable. They've already faced hell and learned how to walk through it. They don't fear weakness anymore. They use it as their reminder. Their reminder of who they used to be and why they'll never go back. Every weakness in your life is an opportunity waiting for you to face it. If you're scared of public speaking, get on a stage. If you're afraid of rejection, face rejection daily. If you lack confidence, start doing hard things until you earn respect from yourself. You don't get confidence from compliments. You get it from proving to yourself that you can survive what you once thought would break you. Every time you do that, you take another step toward turning your weakness into your weapon. Because here's the truth, no one's coming to save you. No one's going to hand you strength. No one's going to give you confidence. That's your job. That's your mission. The world doesn't care about your excuses. It respects your execution. You want to rise. You've got to grind through your insecurities, your fear, your self-doubt, all of it. That's how you evolve. That's how you become the kind of person who doesn't just survive the storm but commands it. You don't overcome weakness by pretending it's not there. You overcome it by dragging it into the light, wrestling with it, and beating it into submission day after day. You make it work for you. You use it to sharpen your hunger, to harden your mindset, to fuel your discipline. That's how warriors are built, not in comfort, not in praise, but in the constant battle against the weakest parts of themselves.